You joining us now. We already started this problem. Okay, so now what's the other assumption that I can make in this picture to finish it off so everything that's marked is congruent? We talked about this yesterday. Does anybody remember what I can mark in here to finish this off? Yep. Yeah, it's congruent to itself. I was trying to remember the property that was. That's a reflexive property. It's congruent to itself. AC is congruent to AC. So now that I have that all filled out, I can start to make my congruent pairs. And so I would say angle D is congruent to angle B. I only started with those because those were the ones that had one swoop mark. And angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. And then we do list the pairs of congruent sides. So I'll do it by the markings again. BC is congruent to CD. And AB is congruent to AD. And AC is congruent to itself. So it seems redundant to write that, but we do because we want to put all the pairs that is a specific side of each individual triangle. So we'll put it together. All right? Now, since these are all pairs that work, what triangles are congruent? And remember, there is more than one answer for this. So I'll take the first one I get, and then we'll see if somebody can write a different one. Triangle what is congruent to triangle what? Anybody? Go for it.
Angle ABC is congruent to triangle ABC.
Yep. ABC to ADC. Again, the angle marked with 2, the angle marked with 1, the angle marked with 3, ABC. Do the same thing on the next one. The angle marked with 2, the angle marked with 1, the angle marked with 3, ADC. Could anybody write that differently? Do I have a different pair of congruent triangles? What other order could I put that in? Yep, go ahead.
BAC is congruent to DAC.
So let's start BAC, that's the 1 mark, 2 marks, 3 marks. DAC, 1 mark, 2 mark, 3 marks. Good? Okay. We could actually even write it a different way, but I hope you get the gist. We're good with that. All right. So let's carry on to our next topic. So up until this point, we have been given information, enough information that allows us to complete the triangle, that we could fill in all of the pieces. But the fact is that we don't need to fill in or need to know all of the pieces to show that two triangles are actually congruent. In fact, we have a couple of postulates out here. It turns out that if corresponding sides in two triangles are congruent, so if the corresponding sides in two triangles are congruent, then the triangles themselves are congruent. I don't even need to know the angles, but I need all the sides. And so we mark it like, here's my two triangles. If I have a congruent side, if all the sides, all the corresponding sides are marked, then we would assume these triangles are congruent. So I'm going to call this triangle PABC W, Remy, what's your middle name?
Huh?
What's your middle name?
Thomas what?
R, T, S? There you go. You have to put in some part in the class, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So triangle PAW is congruent to triangle RTS. Just the sides, no angles have to be marked. There's another one that says, as long as two sides and an included angle are congruent, two sides and an included angle are congruent, then the triangles are congruent. So we say if two corresponding sides are congruent and the corresponding angle between the two sides are congruent, then the triangles themselves are congruent. So that's enough to make a unique triangle. Having a pair of sides or two pairs of sides in your triangles and the included angle. It's important that we look for the included angle, and this gets difficult for people to visualize. So here are my two triangles. If I have sides marked, and either can fill in or am already given that the angle between them is congruent. Again, the angle has to fall between them. It cannot be something like this, and I'll do it in a different color. We'll make it red and then we'll cross it out. It cannot be this. Side, side, and a different angle. That is not the same thing. Do you see that minute difference? The angle has to fall between. Bless you. As long as it's side, angle, side, then these triangles are congruent. So, let's do triangle ABC. I'm getting really boring. And triangle QRS, we would say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle QRS. So now we have some practice problems to see if we can recognize what we're talking about. When we look for congruent triangles, if we want to prove that they're congruent, our reasoning is I can tell they're congruent by this side, side, side postulate, but you don't have to write side, side, side. You can just write SSS. I can prove they're congruent by the side, angle, side postulate, and again, I can just write SAS. So what I'm doing is looking for a shortcut to tell whether the triangles are congruent or not. So I'm going to look at all these pictures. I have a lot of them. I want to identify if they're congruent or not. And if it is, I will write SSS if that's the reason, SAS if that's the reason, or not congruent if that's the reason. So let's look at the first one. Does that fit either of the two postulates we talked about? Yes. Which one? Definitely side, side, side. Some are going to be more obvious than others. All right? So just take a look carefully at it. And also, sometimes I'm going to have to add some information, like in this next case. Vertical angles are congruent, so I can add that congruent mark in the middle. Are these two triangles congruent? Does it fit which one? Side, angle, side. Beautiful. How about this next one? Can I add any additional marking? That middle side is congruent to itself, right? Are these two triangles are congruent? Yeah. By the side, 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 all three sides are met. How about number 4? Can I add anything that's not in there? These sort of look like they might be the same length. Is that good enough? No, you cannot make that assumption. Sometimes if an angle looks like it's a right angle, you cannot say that it's right unless something tells you that it's right. Either it's marked with the perpendicular symbol or it's given that that's a right angle. So this is only 2 things marked. We need at least 3 things marked or to be able to mark a 3rd thing. And therefore, this is not congruent. How about the next one? Any additional information can I mark? Yeah, the side here, right, is congruent to itself. Is it enough to make enough? No. So this is not congruent. How about the next one? What do we got there? Is that an SAS? Does it seem reasonable? I've got 1, 1, 2, 2, angle in between, definitely SAS. Please give the last 9 a try. See how you do. Give the last 9 a try. I'll give you a few moments to do so.
Who asked Mr. Namagasi a question?
Yes. I'm going to flash answers up there. You can take a look and see how you did. I added the shared line congruent to itself for number 7. For number 8, that was a little tricky. It looks like a side angle side, doesn't it? But what's wrong with it? Yeah.
The one line thing and then the 2 lines.
Yeah. So the one has its 2 sides congruent and the other has its 2 sides congruent, but that doesn't mean they're congruent to each other. So you have to watch out for little things like that. I added the vertical angles, but I didn't really need them on this one because I had side angle side. I had to add the missing side on number 10. I had to add the vertical angles on number 11. Number 12, not even close. 13, the missing sides. 14, there's no such thing as angle, angle, angle. Okay? And then 15, not congruent at all. How'd you guys do? Pretty good? Okay, great. Now, those aren't the only 2. We actually have a couple more, and we'll take a look at those as well. So our next 2 are angle, side angle. Oops, hold on. Dancing paper. And angle, angle, side. And so here's how angle, side, angle looks. If 2 pairs of corresponding angles are congruent and the corresponding side between them is congruent. Of course, on inside is sides sides between them are congruent. This isn't English, sorry. Then the triangles are congruent. So let's take a look at what that looks like. I have my two triangles. Hannah, what's your middle name?
What?
What's your middle name?
Mine.
I just want to know.
It starts with an
E? Thank you. Okay. Lillian, what's your middle name?
E.
A?
You're being so sus right now.
Okay, there we go. That's needed. Sometimes my brain needs help. Okay.
I need help.
So I need to do two pairs of corresponding angles. So we'll do the top angle, and in my drawing, the bottom right angle. It's important that the side is marked between them. Because the side is marked between them, we call this angle, side, angle. That's our reason up here. And we can say that triangle HEK is congruent to triangle LAR. The position of the letters, I want to make that clear. The position of the letters is important. This means that I have two angles marked and the side that falls between them, as opposed to the next one, which is angle, angle, side. And so for angle, angle, side, it looks like this. If two pairs of corresponding angles are congruent, and the non-included, or and better than that, a non-included pair of corresponding sides are congruent, then the triangles are congruent. So let's draw our triangles. Let's pick Olivia. What's your middle name?
She's right there.
And we need to pick another one. Caleb, what's your middle name? And W, right? Your last name? Okay, perfect. All right, great. I'm lucky that I've picked people that don't have the same initial for their middle name. That happens sometimes. Anybody have the same initial for your first and your middle name? I will remember to never call you. You've got it all straight through?
No,
Just your first and last. Okay. All right. So let's see what this looks like. This would be two angles marked, but the side cannot fall between them. So it would have to be a side that doesn't go between the angles. Does that make sense? Can you see what I'm talking about there? Because that's a tough one for people to get. Like, how do I know what we're talking about? This is angle, angle, side, because the side is not between the two angles, as opposed to angle, side, angle, because the side is between the two angles. So we can say triangle OGM is congruent to triangle CJW. Good? Okay, so we're going to go again. This time it's with these two postulates. Let's give it a try. I don't want to rush too quick if people need to fill stuff in. All right. So we need to have two angles and a side between them. or two angles and a not side between them. What do I have here? That's definitely an ASA. Perfect. And the next one, I can mark the vertical pair because vertical angles are always congruent, so that's an assumption that I can always make. Are these triangles congruent? Why? Yep. So we have angle, angle, side. How about number 3? What can I mark in that picture that's not marked? Jonathan? Yep, that middle line to itself. These look like they're kind of right angles. Should I just make them right angles? No, I cannot do that unless they tell me. So is this enough to prove the triangles are congruent? Nope. So these are not congruent. Please try the next 9 on your own. Again, give it a try, see how you do. We'll check the answers. Yeah. All right, check your answers. See how you did. Scan through. You're amazing? Is that what I heard? Yay, good for you. How do we feel? One thing that I want you to add to the bottom of your paper is SSA. Or if you write that backwards, it means the same thing. Is not enough to prove congruent triangles. You can have this in your picture. You can have two sides and two pairs of sides and one pair of angles marked as congruent. In fact, we have a picture with that. Which one is that? Right here, number 6. I've got the pair of sides and the angles marked, but that's not enough to prove triangles are congruent, so we can't use that as a reason. We have 4 reasons that we can use. Our 4 reasons are side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side are the 4 that we can use to prove triangles are congruent. And so your homework is going to involve those 4 things, you deciding whether triangles are congruent or not. And then I also have another triangle problem for you to fill in just to keep your skills up on that. And the rest of the time in class is yours to work. What's that?